This tutorial is divided into two parts. The first part is about the basic knowledge in Photoshop elements. The second part is the practice itself. Hello and welcome to my tutorial. I'm Martin W. Larouche. People tend to consider a photo as a whole. Well, in Photoshop elements, you should see a photo as a set of many areas. These areas could be dark, green, flat, or filled with details. They are selections. A selection is surrounded by a dashed line. What's inside will eventually be modified. In real life, a feather goes in a wing, simply. In Photoshop elements, a feather is a command used to soften a selection. We adjust the intensity of a feather in pixels. The more pixels, the smoother the selection will be. A selection with 0 pixel feather will have sharp edges. I click on Windows and I choose the red bicycle. I click on this bar. I hold my click down and move it to the border here. Now I'll change the display to 150%. I hit enter on my keyboard. In Photoshop elements, you can use many tools to make a selection. Let's click on the polygonal lasso. I'll change the feather from 5 to 0 pixels. Let's say I would like to select a portion of the sky. Always remember not to hold your click down when you're using this kind of lasso. Just click and move your mouse around. Always come back to the starting point to close the selection. Okay, now let's see the red square. It's the background. So if I hit the backspace or delete on my keyboard, we'll see this color appear. So I take select and deselect. Or you can go to the history window and click here. This would take me back to the beginning. Let's change the feather from 0 to 5 pixels. And I hit enter on my keyboard. Okay, I make another selection like this. Come back to the starting point. Here. Here I get rounded corners because of the feather, which isn't set at 0. And I get a smooth area filled with red. Okay, let's remove this section here. Now let's take the regular lasso. I draw some kind of shape. Come back to the starting point and delete what's inside. When using this kind of lasso, always click down and drag it around. Let's change the feather from 0 to 25 pixels. I hit delete on my keyboard. You can see now a very smooth red area without any demarcation. Okay, now let's choose another tool, the rectangular marquee. Undo everything. Now I set the feather to 15 pixels. I click, hold it, and drag down to form a rectangle. I get rounded corners. I now delete what's inside the selection. Okay, now let's choose the elliptical marquee here. I click and drag my mouse to the bottom. I hit delete or backspace. To make a perfect circle, I hold my shift key down and I drag my mouse. If I want to move my selection to another place, I simply move my cursor inside the selection, click and drag my selection where I want. And I delete what's inside. Now let's use the magic wand. Let's check the tolerance. By default it's set at 30. I also use this icon which will add a selection to the current selection. The magic wand will detect similar colors. Second click will detect the darker blue and add that selection to the current selection, and so on. And I delete what's inside. Let's see what choosing the run icon would do if you're trying to select the whole sky. It does detect similar colors, but does not add them to each other. Let's go back to the right icon, the add icon. Now that's all correct, and I delete what's inside. Let's undo that. The sky is almost gray, and the bottom of my picture is too dark. First I chose the polygonal lasso, and I set the feather to 3 pixels. I hit enter to validate my choice. Now I'm ready to select the sky. I click, release the pressure, move my cursor, click again, and so on. I go to the top here, come back to the starting point to close the selection. I take now the zoom tool to check my selection. I make sure I have the add icon here, and I add a new selection to my current selection. Now I choose the subtract icon to remove the unnecessary selection. I also remove some selection that touch the water, like this. Okay, back to the hand tool to see it all. From the pull down menu I take Enhance, Adjust Color, and Adjust Hue. I move the saturation slider to the right, like this. This slider will increase the amount of colors. Okay, 71 would be alright. I now try the lightness slider. Or you can type a number and simply hit enter. Let's remove the selection with select, deselect. So I take the polygonal lasso, I set it at 25 pixels to avoid any demarcation. in the picture. I hit enter and I begin to surround the dark area. I click here, here, and so on. And I close my selection. Down here at the right corner, I can see an unselected area. I make sure I have the right icon. I'm now making another selection, which will add to the current selection. Now I'm ready to brighten the selection with Enhance, Adjust Lighting, and Levels. By dragging that slider, I can reach full light if necessary. If I type 1 on my keyboard, it goes back to the original state. No change. Finally, I chose 1.59 and I hit OK. And I remove the selection. You should always save your modified photo under a different name, because if a problem occurs, you always have your original photo as it was. I just add OK to the name. And save it. Please keep the quality to 12. Slider to the right and save it. Now the history palette. In older version of Photoshop Elements like the number 8 or 10, this palette was called Undo History. If I click here, I can go back in time, as if nothing happened. By clicking downward, I can see each modification one after the other. Before and after. Finally, you can save it to keep your changes. Okay, once again, to display your history palette, you take Window and History. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.